And, that's education you cannot get anywhere else.
Right.
Whereas most folks that are out there trying to sell real estate investing as a business or sell coaching or this or that, they tend to focus on the positives. Those two series actually, they focus on the negatives. They focused on the worst things that could happen. And we do that because these are real things, right? I mean, Dwaine, you own rental property, I own rental property. Like, bad stuff is going to happen. And I think investors need to know that at the beginning.
Welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast, your source for real-world strategies focused on creating long-term wealth, cash flow, and financial freedom through real estate. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful real estate investors and thought leaders, we provide you the tools to succeed and reach the lifestyle you always wanted. And now your host, Dwaine Clarke.
Hello and welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast. This is your host, Dwaine Clarke. And today we have James Weiss. James is the co-founder and CEO of Holton-Wise. As CEO, James is the main strategic vision for driving overall growth of the company. In addition, he oversees sales and media departments while also hosting several popular shows on HoltonWiseTV. He is regularly ranked as the #1 selling realtor of rental property in the Cleveland, Ohio market. James, thank you so much for joining us on the show. And how you doing, my friend?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on, Dwaine. How we doing, brother?
I'm doing good, I'm blessed, and I'm glad that you came on to kind of talk about your business out here in Cleveland, a little bit, learn about your stuff that you're working on. But
Yeah.
before we kind of kick things off, would you mind, for those who are not familiar with you, to kind of talk about your background and how you got started in real estate and what your current focus is?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for the solid intro. And really just to, narrow down for you folks who may never have heard of me before, what we do here at Holton-Wise, and more specifically what we do on HoltonWise TV, is we like to provide a complete, transparent look into the rental real estate and real estate investment space. Now, what exactly do I mean when I say that? Well, it seems like there's hundreds of podcasts, hundreds of guys on YouTube talking about investing in real estate and all the money that you can make when you do become a real estate investor. And, that's true, right? Real estate investing has changed my life. Before I was investing in real estate, I was a young guy. I bought my first house at 21, and I was, just working crummy, low-paying jobs. I managed a Radio Shack. I stocked pop at 7-Up. I delivered pizza. I installed and sold invisible fences. So, I did it all, and I didn't really get into that upper echelon, that higher tax bracket, until I really started getting involved deeply in real estate. So you can make a lot of money in real estate. It's changed my life. But, that's the story you hear everybody say. What everybody doesn't talk about, though, is how hard real estate really is and the difficulties that come along with investing in real estate and just some of the rough stuff you deal with on a day-to-day basis when you are a landlord or a property manager. And that's the niche we've really carved out with HoltonWise and HoltonWise TV. We talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and our platform, HoltonWise TV, is really where we demonstrate exactly what investors can expect if this becomes a part-time or full-time thing for them.
Mm-hmm. Nice. As far as kind of like your structure of your company, I understand you're kind of like a one-stop shop. You guys do a lot of stuff from management, insurance, and things like that. Can you kind of talk about the different departments and kind of stuff that you help investors, once they kind of come to you, so they, know that's kind of one guy's taking care of everything for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So it starts with education, right? It starts with the education and the awareness. So that's what HoltonWise TV is all about. You could find that on YouTube. And once, you're learning about the business and you're like, yeah, man, this business is for me, you can go a couple different directions. If you want to take the information and the knowledge that we've given you and invest in your own home market, or with a company like yours, or some other company, this or that, that's great. We want to provide you guys with the information to be the best real estate investor you can possibly be. If you'd like to get more involved with what we do, we are located in Cleveland, Ohio. It is one of the more popular turnkey markets in the United States. And what we have built for investors here in the Cleveland market is a top to bottom one-stop solution. So you can purchase real estate from us, whether it be turnkey real estate that needs a little bit of cosmetic love, fully occupied properties that need full renovations. We present to you guys the deal in the most transparent way possible. Like, here's the deal. This is what the deal is currently doing. This is the amount of money you need to put into the deal to get a net return estimate of approximately this. And every deal is a little bit different. And then we're able to walk you through the whole thing. So, we could work with you as far as the brokerage and the sale of the deal. We will handle the property management. We do the construction, the renovations, all of that in-house. We have insurance, not only here in Cleveland, Ohio, or all of Ohio, but our insurance for real estate investors. We do insurance nationwide. We are licensed in almost all 50 states. So if rental property owners out there need insurance help, we handle that. And then we, of course, have a title company that we are licensed in Ohio to handle that. So if they do want to work with us deeply and have everything handled for them from top to bottom in the Cleveland market, we could take care of that. Or like I said earlier, if they just want to take the information and the knowledge and do it in their own market, we are more than happy to give them the tools to put in their tool belt to be the best investors possible.
Beautiful. Yeah, I know a little bit about the Columbus market, but not so much about the Cleveland market. Maybe if you can kind of touch on that market and what's so attractive about it. And do you guys work with a lot of out-of-state investors that are pooling money into this marketplace? And have what are the changes you've seen in the past couple of years?
Yeah, the Cleveland market's going to be different than the Columbus market, right? Columbus is kind of an outlier in the Ohio market, so to speak, right? Like Columbus, you're going to see higher price points. You have a net population gain in that market, and the price points are going to be pretty high. What we have up here in the Cleveland market is going to be similar to what folks are seeing in a lot of the other popular turnkey markets in the United States. So think of markets like Detroit, Indianapolis, Memphis, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are cash flow markets. It's very attractive to out-of-state investors. And to your question, yeah, the majority of the investors we work with are out-of-state or out-of-country investors. We get a lot of folks from just high-cost markets. A lot of folks in the West Coast, California, and then areas like New York or Florida, where the particular areas they live in are just very expensive. And the price points that we have, like folks are able to pick up single family homes in like the $50,000 to $80,000 range, duplexes in the $70,000 to $100,000 range. Apartment buildings, you're picking stuff up $30,000 a unit. So that's what attracts all these folks to these markets, to this area, because the prices are so cheap, right? Like you purchase a duplex, let's say you bought it for $90,000. That duplex is bringing in $1,500, $1,600 in rent. You're not going to see a price to rent ratio like that on the West Coast. So that's what attracts folks here to the Cleveland market.
Yeah, because like I said, I work with a lot of investors out in California, New York, and New Jersey, and they're trying to get out as fast as possible to kind of put into other markets. And again, like I said, I'm starting to study more marketplaces and a little bit on the Cleveland side. So it's great to have a person that's boots on the ground there. Can you kind of talk about because you answered my previous question as far as you kind of handle the construction management, so you're providing this turnkey type of thing. On the property management side, how is kind of like the landlord tenant law? So is it more that since you have the property management department, that it takes a lot of intensive oversight in the Cleveland market compared to other places because of the laws? Like how's the laws there compared to other places?
Well, it's Ohio in general leans relatively red, so you're going to see a little bit more favorable landlord tenant laws. We're not like Arkansas, where basically if your tenant's an hour late on rent, you can pretty much shoot them. It's not that landlord friendly. However, it's not California, where if your tenant doesn't pay rent, you're pretty much screwed. It's a fairly happy medium. As far as like, just to give you like an idea of how things work, like an eviction, right? Typically from non-payment of rent till the time that tenants are actually removed from the home for non-payment of rent, we're looking approximately 6 to 8 weeks. So nothing out of the ordinary. It's fairly landlord friendly. I mean, you take places like Jersey, you mentioned Jersey, anywhere in California, take like Portland. I think Oregon just recently, I want to say, passed rent control for the entire state. We don't have any rent control or any things of that nature. So it's rather landlord friendly out here.
Beautiful. Education is like a big, huge part of your thing. And that's the thing for me is I'm always kind of talking about different things to educate my investors to get them well informed so they can be able to take action. Can you kind of talk about your platform, how you've been able to grow it and your reach, and then how you're able to kind of help investors become comfortable investing in Cleveland, as well as, looking at your other services that you provide?
Yeah, it goes back to, the main point I made at the top of this interview. Our number one mission, our number one goal is about providing that transparency, right? Because, I could just get on the internet and tell you, hey man, real estate changed my life. I made a lot of money. It was great. Blah, blah, fuck. Everybody's saying that, right?
Hmm.
Like everybody's saying that. How many shows are out there where they're saying that? So the angle we take with our show is just showing you guys the real life stuff. And on HoltonWise TV, we run several TV shows, two of which that are incredibly popular are the Landlords from Hell series and the Tenants from Hell series. And, that's education you cannot get anywhere else.
Right.
Whereas most folks that are out there trying to sell real estate investing as a business or sell coaching or this or that, they tend to focus on the positives. Those two series actually they focus on the negatives. They focused on the worst things that could happen, and we do that because these are real things, right? I mean, Dwaine, you own rental property, I own rental property. Like, bad stuff is going to happen, and I think investors need to know that at the beginning. They see like this is like the worst of the worst that could happen to you. And if you're still rolling with me after that, let's do some business, folks. Because
Hmm.
once you realize that's it, it's nothing but green sky, green grass, blue sky on the other side, because that's as bad as it is. But that type of stuff does scare folks, some folks away, but that's good. I'd rather you be scared prior to you putting up all of your money, as opposed to, figuring it out later. So, that right there is two of our shows that are very popular. And then some other shows, I'll analyze deals for people. So a lot of people just want to learn the Cleveland market, or maybe they found a property that looks really good. They found it on Zillow and the price to rent ratio is just off the charts, right?
Hmm.
And, they have the ability to send me that deal and I will make them a customized video. They usually run a half hour to 45 minutes. And I break everything down. I break down the risk factors and I tell it like it is. I'm a very abrupt and to the point person. So like if the deal's great, I'm like, hey, this is a good deal. Here's your risk factors, blah, blah, blah. This is what I think you should do. If the deal's bad, I'll be like, hey, man, your deal's dog shit, and here's why. And I'll come right out and tell you. And then in addition to that, we sell all of our properties on the Investment Properties for Sales show. We have a general Q&A show called the Ask James Wise series where folks can ask me questions. And we also have the This is Holton Wise series, which is just a short commercials meant to show investors the things we're doing. And then the last show we have on our platform is called the House Flipping Show. And that's where I interview folks across the country about deals they've flipped. And that's just, purely educational, just to get the ball rolling, get conversations going, and, teach investors what to do.
Yeah, I love that approach because again, you're like you seem like you're a very straight talker, tell it how it is, and a lot of times when people, especially because they want to sell and get investors involved and stuff, they just kind of tell them all the great things that's going to happen with the property, and then when things go bad, they're just kind of say, "Whoops," So it's best to just tell them straightforward how ugly it is because as a landlord, as an investor, things can happen. You want to be prepared in that situation, and it's best that you kind of go through it in detail and show them. Especially like I watched a couple of your series of the deal analyzer where you go through all of the numbers. You're showing the video of like what is this, and just laying everything out there. So when people approach the investment, especially coming from outside the market, they feel more comfortable, more confident in that investment, and it's more a win-win situation and less headache. So yeah, hats off to you there.
That's the way you got to do it. And, to that point about you saying that some folks only want to tell like the good, like a recent video that we put out on the Landlords from Hell series. It's a high profile situation happening down in Indianapolis, Indiana. Fox News, right? Former Fox News anchor Clayton Morris, he had a turnkey
Hmm.
company, and his sales pitch was a little bit too blue sky, right? Green grass, blue sky, and there's a lot of risk factors involved in the business, and he put some trust into some folks, and basically a lot of folks were sold a lot of stuff that didn't actually come to fruition, and none of the
Hmm.
risk factors were ever spoken about. So we did a full-length documentary on that, and that is on HoltonWise TV if anybody's interested. But that just goes to show you guys, like, what can happen if you don't properly set expectations. It can completely blow up in your face and completely derail a career. So, I do it for the benefit of the customer, but I also do it for the benefit of myself and the longevity of my business, because, you and I as rental property owners, we know eventually bad stuff's going to happen.
Right.
I'd be a fool if I didn't come out and tell you that in the beginning. Why would I expect my client base or my audience to accept an outcome that is drastically different than the one I told them about? It just makes no sense from a long-term business owner standpoint.
Absolutely. And as far as kind of like the number of deals that you've been involved, the number of properties you've been involved with, are there some that maybe come off the top of your head that kind of was like, the most craziest outcome that you end up turning around that became a good story?
Yeah. Dude, so many. We one time we had to evict a tenant 5 times
Oh, wow.
from the same location. We had talked. You talked earlier about landlord tenant laws and the regulations out here. Like I said, it's not California, right? It's pretty landlord friendly, but it also ain't Arkansas. You can't shoot your tenant if they don't pay after an hour. The Cleveland market, right? There's several suburbs, just like any other major market. Cleveland itself, it's pretty landlord friendly, but there are a few suburbs in the Cleveland market that are much more tenant friendly. One of those is a city called Cleveland Heights. And we had a story
Hmm.
where we ended up having to evict a person 5 times. That's
Wow.
on HoltonWise TV if you folks want to hear the full story. But that just goes to show you the role that local government and municipality can play in this business. In addition to that, we've seen it all: suicide, murder, squatters. I've had people pooping in hallways. I've had somebody threaten to set my house on fire, not my rental house, the actual house I live in. We've had couches flown out of windows, bed bugs, multiple properties burned down, drugs. We actually had a prostitution ring in one of our apartments at one time. And before your listeners start to think that I'm just running a freaking circus out here, I do just want to make sure I throw this disclaimer. We're full service, right? So in addition to selling folks the investments and getting them started, HoltonWise, we run a $50 million portfolio here in the Cleveland market. So we are probably the most well-known scattered site property management company in the market. So we get a lot of situations where landlords, burnt out landlords, they come to us with their problems, right? Like,
Mm,
hey, I inherited this property and this is what I'm dealing with. I'm totally in over my head. Can we hire you guys to get in and turn it around? Because, we're no nonsense, man. If you watch our content, we are very firm. We run the portfolio with an iron fist, essentially. We evict 100% of non-payers. So folks, they bring problem properties to us for us to turn around. So I just wanted to get that out of there.
mm.
When I'm explaining all of my horror stories, I don't want folks to think I don't have any idea what I'm doing. On the show, we do teach you how to screen these things out and reduce the frequency that these horror stories will happen to you when you're investing.
Exactly. Yeah, I love your approach. It's like I said, just straightforward, and I guess especially if in some tougher sub markets you have to be, extremely tough, and landlords know they can rely on you to make sure it gets worked out and make them cash flow on that property or get their problem tenants out of there. For some of the audience to kind of learn a little bit more about you, what's kind of like a typical day? I know you're just constantly educating, work with new investors, kind of building the company's brand. Can you kind of tell me what's kind of typical day, and do you have any special morning routines?
Well, HoltonWise, it's a decent sized company at this point, right? We've got over 60 employees. What I do, right? I handle a lot of the marketing, the media, the education. I run directly over the sales teams. My partner, John, he runs our property management, our personal portfolio. He's in charge of the construction, overseeing all of the properties, and our accounting team and, our various other team members. So what I do on a day-to-day is definitely going to be different. It's a very different experience than what most real estate investors are going to have, because my personal dealings are more in the media space than the actual on-the-ground property management space. As the company has grown, I've gotten more and more into the media side, and I've personally gotten out of the physical on-the-ground side. But we have a full staff handling all of that, and of course, I'm at the very tip top overseeing things at the very end, general policies. But I focus on strategy and the big picture and just growing this company. Currently, right now, we're doing top to bottom in the Cleveland market. And there are so many other great markets out there, though. And we're providing the general education for everyone who wants to self-manage. But in addition to that, we're also connecting investors who are like, man, I love what you guys are doing, but I just don't think that Cleveland is going to fit what I want to do. I'm really interested in Memphis, Tennessee, or I'm really interested in Indianapolis, Indiana. We are now on our TV, our platform. We are actually showcasing on the ground teams in each of these other various markets, and we are able to connect investors listening to the shows with those folks. So you're able to come here, get the information, get the education, and then just like we have a nice ground team here in Cleveland, we're able to send you over to separate companies that have built a similar on-the-ground structure in those particular markets.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love it. It sounds great. For all the success, you started out owning investment property since 21, building this huge company now, and it's just growing to leaps and bounds. What can you say you're most grateful for?
Most grateful for, I think it's the freedom, right? It's the freedom. Like, I'm not saying I don't work all the time. I probably put in, 90 to 100 hours a week, but I am free. My wife and I, we just recently had a son. And, if I need to work from home for the majority of the day to get things going in the morning, I can do that. I'm not tied down to someone else's schedule. Like when I make appointments that are planned out, and they work for me and they work for my family and they work for what I'm trying to do. I'm no longer stuck working in that 9 to 5 on that 9 to 5 grind where, it's whatever the company says you got to do,
Right.
That's what you have to do. I mean, when I was stocking pop for 7-Up back in the day, I had to work every Sunday. I couldn't watch the Brownies play. I mean, you know how sad it is for a nice Cleveland boy like me not to watch the Browns get their asses whooped? Now I make sure I watch every single week the Brownies get their asses whooped.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it. So obviously from your YouTube channel, people can look you up on HoltonWiseTV, but is there any links or contact information you can provide to our listeners?
Guys, just go ahead and punch HoltonWiseTV into Google, and we will pop up. Definitely HoltonWiseTV on our YouTube channel is the very first place you want to get information from us. From there, if you end up going to HoltonWise.com, you can sign up for our daily email list. There'll be links all over the website that'll drive you to that. And if you're interested in seeing some of the properties we are selling, we will email them to you every single day at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Awesome. James, it was great speak with you. Again, it was like I said, I love your approach. Not many people that I see do it like this, where you just kind of tell them how it is, kind of lay out all that information. You just kind of start from that educational base first to be able to inform investors to make more sound decisions. Again, HoltonWiseTV. James, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time and look forward to connecting with you again soon.
All right. Take it easy.
Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes or the listening platform of your choice. Also, please check us out at DwaineLClarke.com, as well as find us on Facebook for more useful content and resources.